Welcome to the Operations Science Podcast, where the art and science of operational excellence come to life through captivating stories of triumph, challenge, and transformation from the front lines of industry. Our distinguished guests, from manufacturing pioneers and medical device innovators to aerospace visionaries, diagnostic lab leaders, and major capital project leaders, unveil the hidden patterns and powerful insights that drive exceptional results in the complex world of operations. Join us on this journey of discovery as we explore the brilliant minds behind the systems that make our world work and uncover the leadership secrets that could revolutionize your approach to operations forever. Here is your host, Ed Pound.
Welcome to the Operations Science Podcast. Our guest today joins us from Costa Rica, where he spends his days orchestrating large, complex projects that move medical device manufacturing across borders and into new facilities. With a background in industrial engineering and deep experience in program and project management, he leads multi-million-dollar transfers where hundreds of people, multiple work streams, and strict regulatory requirements all have to align. He operates at that critical intersection where customer expectations, internal efficiency, and regulatory compliance meet. His work involves moving entire production processes from one site to another, ensuring the new operation is not only on time and on budget, but also more efficient, more cost-effective, and ready to deliver high-quality devices to patients around the world. What makes his story particularly compelling is how he combines structured project methods with the human side of influence. In an era of AI and digital tools, he's a strong believer that successful execution still comes down to people aligning internal and external stakeholders, managing risk and variability, a central operations science topic, and sustaining trust over projects that can be run for years while the products they enable run in production cycles of just a few weeks. Please welcome to the Operations Science Podcast, Ricardo Monge. Hello, Ricardo. How are you?
Hi, Ed. Doing good. Thanks for having me here. It's an honor.
Glad you're here. Nice looking background. Looks like a nice day in Costa Rica.
It is. Just getting to that dry or summer time here in Costa Rica. So really excited.
Beautiful. All right. So to get us started, can you give our listeners a quick overview of your current role and the kind of projects you're responsible for today?
Yeah, sure. Well, as you said, my role is project program manager in charge of leading complex programs or projects on the medical device industry. Pretty much, I just my whole career is based on the medical devices industry, and also have some opportunities to be related on production operations, manufacturing, engineering, and operational excellence also areas. But all in the medical devices industry, sometimes with third-party manufacturers or OEM, and also with OEMs or direct sellers. So that's a brief of my career and my background.
Excellent. There's a whole lot to unpack there. So let's start with you mentioned the project you're working on now has been running in place for about 3.5 years, while the production cycle time is on the order of weeks or months. How do you think about those two very different time horizons when you're planning and managing work?
Sure. When we're talking about the operationals and projects, we're talking about two different things in terms of you have a really strategic side of the purpose that is the project, and then you have the tactical side that is the operation. So the project is the long term, and the production is the short term execution. So you really need to balance and plan really accurate the milestones just to ensure that you are providing the correct ramp up and readiness to the production, and also hitting the milestones in the correct way and according to the plan regarding the strategic part that it is the project. So you have to balance the planning on those both so you can make success.
Yeah, those are two different time horizons. We've actually spent a lot of time with operations science and how that applies to project management, because people typically think, oh, a project, that's just coordinating people, but actually it's a production process, right? I mean, the work is you have to hit milestones. Hitting the milestone is a product that there are resources required to hit that, and the same laws of operations science apply. So can you walk us through what a typical transfer looks like? from first concept to stable production, or you're taking the existing process and moving it there. What's that like?
There are different types of transfers. So how you said, you can transfer something that is already in production and on the market and transfer to a different site. And also you can transfer a concept or a design device in the design stages of the product. You can transfer both, but at the end of the day, essentially, it is pretty much the same. It is different stages that you will start with the due diligence. I call it due diligence, and it is the part of creating the knowledge of the transfer. So understanding how is the process, the different components that it has, not only from the process perspective, but from the supply chain standpoint, systems, human resources needs, and of course the budgeting and the capital required to perform that transfer. So that's the first phase. Of course, behind that phase is all the commercial part, right? And the contract part of the process of the negotiation and the development of the business. But I will say from the transfer perspective, the first thing or the first phase is this due diligence. Then, if you perform that due diligence in detail, you can planning according to the goals of the project, and then you start the execution of the project. In this case, we are talking about validations, trainings, building the clean rooms, developing systems, training the people. So at the end, you can done the execution of the project of those validations also, and start doing this ramp up and stabilization of the process.
Okay, yeah. So that's interesting. So we just talked about the difference between the time horizons of getting the project in place and then day to day production. I just to clarify, is once the production process is up and going, are you managing day to day activities also while you're working on project transfers, or are you focused just on the transfers?
Yeah, that's a really important portion. It's just the project transfer, because I mean the project. Remember, we need to have the concept of the project that has a beginning and an end, and the end is the transfer of the project, and we have like a transition time, a transition period when we babysitting the process and we ensure that the process is now stabilized and we can 100% do this handshake with the production side, with the production area, sorry, and we can just call it that the project is 100% close and hit the expected requirements.
Right. So then, so when it's into day to day production, that's when your project ends, right? Okay. But it sounds like though you do have to work with the production guys, as you mentioned, for validation and making sure that it's up and going and the customers are getting the requirements they want, all of that.
Yeah, yeah, and it depends of the complex of the program. This transition from project to sustaining can long like months or right. It's not just a few weeks, because you need to ensure that the product is the process is proficient and can be produced.
Okay, so that's interesting. So when you're looking at projects, do you look at projects with as production processes? Even though the work is not physical, you have a lot of virtual work, but you still have resources like people. They have work in process, which are tasks. How do you apply those concepts to your project delivery process?
Well, yeah, in terms to seeing this that the project has a production flow, it really interesting because there are several tools so you can control the project has a production flow, understanding that you have like the famous critical path, right? So doing frequently these revisions of the critical path, doing that critical path analysis, you can understand if you have, for example, bottlenecks has are really used to under production flows, and create these strategies to tackle down those bottlenecks and hit the capacity. In this case, that level of execution that the project requires. So that's a way to see projects has a production flow.
Yeah, so that's interesting. We've had great success with that. The guys over at the Project Production Institute have been very successful. They focus primarily on construction projects, but any kind of projects. I mean, we've worked with design engineers, all sorts of, repair procedure engineers, and looking at that. And, you mentioned uh, critical path. I mean, that's certainly a tool that you need. But the issue with critical path is because it's a fixed deterministic schedule, it's basically out of date as soon as you publish it. But that doesn't mean you don't want to look at it. Do you measure the capacity of your resources in your projects and look at their working process levels? It sounds like maybe you do because you were looking, you were talking about where bottlenecks are.
Yeah, we measure that capacity of the resources using the standard tags and templates to estimate the capacity of the resources, capacity of the validations that we are going to perform, capacities on the equipment that also we need to validate it, put in process to me a manufacturing product. So we do that kind of analysis in terms to understand capacities in different ways from resources, equipment, systems.
Okay. So what do you see as the biggest challenges because you're dealing with a lot of different stakeholders, right? You've got the customers, you've got your local folks, there's regulatory compliance going on. What are the major challenges there? And what have you found to be best practices for making sure that goes smoothly?
Yeah, that's crucial when you are in the program managing because you need to take in consideration that each department and each stakeholder has their priorities, and they need to hit their goals and accomplish those targets. So the most important thing in terms to align different stakeholders, different departments, and different point of views is to bring data to the table and sit everyone, show the data, create different scenarios to understand how time, quality, and scope is impacting on the decision that we need to make, and create this consensus on the different forums. That's the number one and the most important thing. Just make data-driven decision and provide that data to the team. And the second one, identify who are the persons that take that decision, so you can perform really effective meetings and take that decision right away.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, so one is data, and then two, making sure that you have I guess, project leads for each area and the right people to make the right decisions. You mentioned something about defining scope, and one of the things we've seen a lot in construction is scope creep, where you start on one project, then all of a sudden it's a different project. Do you see that a lot, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, that's really common. I mean, for sure, this is going to happen. And the thing is how you mitigate that and how you foreseen that is going to happen. I think that the experience give you that capability, and the importance to be a program manager is that you have the value or the ownership to always have the big picture of the project. And when the big picture, I mean that goal, the main goal of the project, you always have to have it clear, and then you can translate to your team and cascade it to the different areas. But you, as a program manager, has to have that goal clear. So when you are dealing with really technical complex transfers, it is really common to have this scope creep, because technical issues, of course, will direct some slips on the schedules, on the budgets, and of course on the scope. But if you have that goal clear, you can mitigate that scope creep from different stakeholders and just do the stop and fix that is required and keep moving forward with the project.
Yeah, so I guess there's always sort of the fine line, and it may be more of an art than a science when somebody wants to change a drawing on a particular tool or piece of equipment that really doesn't affect anything. It's like, okay, no big deal. But if they want to change something like design of the project, which requires different equipment and you're halfway through the project, that's more significant and that requires more resources. So how do you balance that where I assume uh, it's pretty common to have in contracts, like if there's a significant change, then that results in additional costs. So is that the case? And how do you balance those decisions?
I think that's related to my previous answer. When it's necessary to make those decisions, we need to evaluate the different scenarios and translate in this case to finance, right? To the budget, to the capital expense and the non-reverse expense of the project, and understanding what will be the impact. And also, a really important point to take in consideration in this industry is if you're gonna make some change in the scope, how that change will impact the regulatory side of the deliveries, right? Because this is the key. This is key in this industry, right? You always have to take in consideration this regulatory side. So again, just making the scenarios, thinking, and all the areas that are going to be impacted, how are going to be impacted, and then sometimes actually just provide guidance and provide the recommendation to the decision makers so they can make it quicker and efficient for the team.
In your contracts, though, typically, because the contracts tend to set the behavior for how people work, are there typically provisions for extra charges for scope changes? Is that something you deal with?
Yes, yes. This is part of the commercial, actually, the commercial side that we talk at the first question when the transfers begins. So the contract is created at that point, and of course, it's trying to have items or specific statements. If scope needs to be changed, if more capital for any reason is necessary, who is going to take charge of that amount? And in a very general way, it's really hard to find really specific contracts, but always they have those kinds of statements, so you can both parts can be covered in any of those scenarios.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's basically risk mitigation, right? Because if they keep changing things and they keep incurring, requiring you to incur more cost, that can be a problem. So, how have you seen it where transfer projects work? When you start, first of all, are you involved in the commercial negotiations, or you talking with those guys? How does that work?
It is crucial to be involved in the early stages of the business. Most because the quoting process is key, right? So you really need to ensure that your coding process is accurate, so you can perform a good contract with foreseen or any of the changes. Not in the middle of the execution of the project to ask more money for the budget or more resources. So for sure, it is important to be involved on the early stages of the business, just to make sure that this quoting process is accurate and asked for current for accurate information to the different functional areas. Just to take in consideration that the different scenarios that can happen in the execution of the project, and do this code process well, so we can just deliver a good product at the end of the day.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, and it sounds like that you get involved with projects very early on. So, do you get assigned to a project when there's a request for proposal? Is that they say, "Okay, Ricardo, this is yours. Work with the team." Okay, that makes complete sense. Yeah, as you said, all of that it's very necessary to get started. So when you get started, here's in terms of project delivery, have you found that most of the projects deliver on schedule and on cost from when you first got started with the RFP and people were talking about it's going to be, we want this up and running in 2 years? Is that generally on time and on budget?
No. Short answer, no. uh, there are a couple of certainties in life. The first one is you're going to die, and the second one is the project is going to be delayed for sure. Yeah, it's not common to have a project on time or target from the first baseline. But important thing here is, well, from the business perspective, as I said, to have the contract set up with all the correct statements, and for the proper management to have the proper tools of a control change execution. So you can, well, first of all, communicate to your stakeholders delays, and then to perform this change control properly so you can have a new baseline that allows you and your team to perform according to a new timeline and a new requirements that all the team is aligned so you can move forward with the project.
Yeah. So, what do you think? What do you see typically as the biggest causes for project delays and overruns?
The most common, at least from my experience and industry that I'm working on, it is the technical part of these transfers, the technical complexity. There's always the main hitters of the delays. Of course, we need to also deal with the integration of a complex supply chains, systems, and setups. That also cost. It is a common factor on the lakes. And yeah, for sure, I would say that those two are the most common of the yeah.
That makes sense. So, when you're looking at your portfolio of experience, what kind of training or coaching do you think most helps project and program managers in making better decisions about capacity and timing and risk for these large transfer projects?
Well, in terms of coaching, I think that for these big transfers, the best training is to perform the, as I called earlier, the due diligence well. To all the people that is involved in the project, really needs to understand the process that we are talking, the end to end. And I'm talking from human resources, finance, IT, supply chain, engineering, operations. The whole team, the whole core team needs to understand the process so they can make better decisions and thinking always on the product that we need to deliver.
So, you've been a project manager for what, 10 years, 12 years, something like that, and when a new project manager comes in, what sort of training do you provide that person?
Well, yeah. First of all, I start with this part, with this technical part, so the person can be involved in that one, and then I will move to the program management part. To the I always emphasize the stakeholder management part. It is really important, always to have it in consideration as project manager, and then the risk management part and the communication part are essential and in this side of the training.
When you bring on a new program manager, right? Somebody who is starting, you need more resources in program managers, so you need a new program manager. It sounds like the kind of training that you have is you serve as a mentor. There's not like a formal program where they have to go and take 3 or 4 courses and then they're ready to be a program manager. It sounds more like it's mentoring where they team the new person up with an experienced program manager. Is that right?
Yeah, it's that right. I will call it like a on the job training, right? It is like had you said, like a mentorship process. You need to understand and highlight, as I said, communication, stakeholder management, and reporting. That kind of things.
Okay, so let's switch topics a little bit. We have to talk about, the hottest topic these days, which is AI. And so there's a lot of discussion, AI is going to replace everybody's jobs. It's going to replace project managers. What's your view on that? How do you see AI supporting or replacing work that you do?
Well, you mentioned it, and that's the key for me is to support and not to replace. AI is great nowadays to freeing your time to do reporting, risk estimations or risk scenarios, templates, create templates, and freeing your time to be more strategic, to think on a very strategic part of the project, to be more present for your core team and provide more coach, more mentorship. That's how I see the AI nowadays. It is a great tool to involve and be part of your day-to-day task. To use it on your favor, so you can spend more time dealing with the strategic and the mentorship of your core teams.
Yeah, I mean, it can be very useful. I've talked with other people in different industries and, things like reviewing technical drawings, right? Looking for errors or managing change processes, or there's just a whole lot of potential for it to make people more efficient. I said this before, but I think, people won't necessarily get replaced by AI, but they might get replaced by someone who knows how to use AI because they're certainly much more efficient.
Exactly. That's the thing, and you said it really well. I'm 100% agree on that. As we talk later, for me, the most important thing or the most important part of the role of being a project manager or a program manager is that you deal with human beings, you deal with people, and AI still, we don't know in a few years, it still doesn't have those capabilities to guide us, to talk with people, right? So that's the most important thing, to influence on your core teams and your stakeholders. That's the essential of being a program manager. And as you said, probably the AI won't replace the PM work, but probably someone that can use efficiently the AI will replace another PM that it will not keep up with that rate.
Yeah, it just, I mean, I use it myself. I love AI. I use AI. I don't trust AI at all, but it, it can be very, very helpful. I mean, as I mentioned, I use it just in the production of these podcasts. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely has a role, and it's been very, very helpful. And I think you're right. That's what's going to happen. People just need to learn to use it as another tool, as in its current state. Yeah. So what you mentioned, a favorite topic in operation science is variability. It sounds to me like the biggest source of variability in your project transfers is technical considerations. But what about talk a little bit about regulatory and compliance considerations? For instance, I don't know if you can't really influence tariffs, but tariffs might influence what happens with your projects. Talk a little bit about regulatory and compliance considerations when you're doing project transfers.
Yep, the regulatory part is essential, right? This is a medical devices industry, and that's pretty much the base of this, to sustain and sustain lives in different applications. So when we are talking about transfers and the planning process, the regulatory side is essential because you need to always ensure that the requirements to validate, perform the transfer, and execute the manufacturing process are going to be fulfilled by the deliverables of your project or program. So, in terms of regulatory, uh, one important part or something that is easy to deal with is there are always a standard. It's standards that guide you on how to do the things, right? And there are no completely details, and the standards don't want to tell you, right, how to do the processes or procedures, but provide the guidelines, and that's the good thing to work with a regulatory site and a regulatory process, that you have that advantage, and always you have to deal with these different regulatory entities that will certify your processes, your systems, to allow you to sell to different, in this case, suppliers. And so that's the good thing to work with a regulatory process.
So I was talking with another guy about sustainability, and the question came up. I mean, all these, your company, there are other companies do the same thing. You've got all these different customers. Is there a central clearinghouse or clearing agency where, when the regulatory requirements, you go to one particular organization, or do you have to do different regulatory requirements for every different customer?
Yeah, we have to deal with different regulatory entities. Depends not only on the customer, but on the markets that the product is going to be used. So that's the key there, is that to understand what will be the markets on the products are going to be sold and used. And based on that, you will have to deal with different regulatory entities.
Okay. So that just sounds like you that's just the way the world works. You can't get rid of that variability, and so you just have to deal with it as best as possible.
Yeah, correct. And that's why it's crucial to have it really clear on the planning phase, because you have one product that is going to be sold in different markets. You have to deal with different regulatory institutions. So you have to prepare different deliverables, different set of documentations, different process, different timelines. So that's a complex thing. And you have to have it clear when you are applying.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's switch and talk about people a little bit. I mean, you've been doing this for quite a while, and you're dealt with, I'm sure, many different cultures and different people. What have you found to be the most effective practices for ensuring that you have good communication and that people are all aligned on what they're trying to achieve?
Yeah, well, in terms of communications, always the key is to be really transparent and really, as I said before, database. No matter what is the topic, right? If it is a technical topic, or it is a finance, or it is a really high level or executive topic that you need to handle, always to be really on point, direct, and perform really effective communication. And of course, a key part of the communication is to be a good listener. So in terms to dealing with core teams that probably will be spread around the world, is really important to listen to them and actually ask them how they are used to have some specific communications and how they want to communicate or report different aspects of the project. So having these conversations is crucial in terms to perform a really well communication.
When you're working with people, having communication, getting them aligned is key. Those best practices include things like understanding cultural differences. Do you work with a lot of different cultures, or is it mainly is it the U.S. or Europe or China, or how does that work?
Yeah. Well, you don't have control of that. You're right. You always deal with different cultures, indeed. Different time zones that actually that is a tricky factor that you have to take in considerations to set up meetings, to make calls, right? Send any messages or quick messages. And yeah, you need to be really flexible on their part, and really have that empathy on the different core team members that you will have, because for sure you will deal with different cultures and skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the key word you mentioned is flexibility. You really have to be flexible because everybody doesn't work like you work, and so you have to be sensitive to that. How many different countries have you worked with over your career?
Oh well, I think that many. I recall, well, for of course the U.S., but Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Germany, China. Yeah, it's quite a big list over there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but the thing is, on the other hand, it keeps it very interesting, right? You're always learning new stuff, and if you like learning, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about Ricardo the man. All right. So a little bit of background about you. Where did you grow up? And who or what are the major influences in your life that led you to where you are today?
Well, for sure. Well, to start with, I was born and raised in Cartago. It's a city really near to San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica. It's beautiful for sure. I really like it. It's had great sightings all over the place. We have uh, two volcanoes in our city. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Had this downtown.
Are they active volcanoes?
One of them, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
That makes life interesting.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's not common.
Yeah. Yeah. So you grew up there where where did you get your mechanical aptitude from? Were your mom or dad engineers?
No, actually, that's funny because there are not like a legacy of engineers in my family, but yeah, we have some mechanical skills on both sides, right? And that's part of my influence actually. Just to finish the first question, I for sure the most influence that I get to be the person that I am today for sure is my family. I grew up with my family. We have a really nice bonding, and for sure that is the best influence that I have.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what did your mom and dad do? I mean, were they in? You said mechanical. So, what was that mechanical activity that influenced you?
Well, in this case, my grandfather and uncles has a an auto shop.
Oh, okay.
And so that's how I learned, and I have that influence from there. My mom is a teacher, is a high school and a school teacher. She's already retired, so I have a little bit of envy there. And then my dad also is also involved with auto shops and mechanical, so I have those that influence.
Okay. Well, that definitely you need data when you're doing stuff like that. I can see where that would be an influence. So what do you do? What do you do outside of work when you want to unwind?
Oh well, yeah, I have a list of hobbies, but for sure the most that I enjoy most and give me and help me to relax and have quality time with my fiance. That for sure is one of the most important things that I have in my life. It is just we are a couple of foodies, and so on the weekends we really enjoy to go to different places and try new things with a couple with a good glass of wine and have some quality time. That's for sure one of my hobbies. Spend some time with her, and the second one for sure is I'm a really active man, so I really enjoy to perform some exercises. So I always try to discover a new sport. So I'm really into tennis, soccer.
We should play tennis sometime if I'm ever in Costa Rica. I play tennis a
Yeah,
lot.
sure. Let's do it.
Love it. Yeah, definitely. And so you said fiance. Well, have you set a wedding date?
Yes, it's in April, next April, and that's the most important project they are handling right now.
Right. You need to deliver that project on time. Let me tell you, buddy.
Actually, we have again created a list of suppliers. You know, it's a project.
Yeah. Well, I mean, typically though, my experience is that so I've got a daughter getting married. I don't get really involved in the project. They just say, write a check, but so my project management skills aren't required, which is fine with me. But yeah, that's an important project to deliver. Absolutely.
Correct. Well, most important was by now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, congratulations. Well, listen, it's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I appreciate you taking the time, and let's continue the conversation. There's a lot of good insight here. That whole idea about projects, looking at projects as production systems, and of course, they're governed by the laws of operation science is so important. And it sounds like you got a pretty good handle on that. So I appreciate you sharing your experience.
No, thanks for having me. It was a really a pleasure and an honor to talk with you at the best of lucks on this project. And for sure, let's keep talking and value added to all the members that are involved in the operation science community.
That sounds great. All right, thanks. Have a great day.
You too, Fi.
Bye-bye.
The Operation Science podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. Join the Operation Science Institute at opscience.org. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not represent their company's views unless specifically stated as such.